Hi Not Board Gamers, and welcome back to Not Board Gaming. I'm your host, I'm Mark. Now today's video is going to be my top 10 solo games of 2022. A little bit later than a lot of people, and that's because one of the games on the list, or two of the games on the list should I say, arrived pretty much towards the back end of 2022, and I wanted to play them enough time to see if they would make the list. Let's see if they do. Now, I don't know about you guys, I think that 2022 was a pretty good year for board games and solo board gaming as well. There were some new games that came out. Some of them have appeared on many top 10 lists, and there's some really iconic games that came out, or games that will become iconic in future years. And of course, the world has now opened back up after COVID, so all the cons started as well. So last year, I went to Aircon, I went to UK Games Expo, I went to Essen, and I went to another one, GridCon in Devon. This year, I've got Aircon again in a couple of months. I've got UK Games Expo. I'm going to Gen Con this year. I'm also going to do Powdered Wig Con when I go over to America, which is a very small, really small, i.e. I'm just going to be playing games at Will Brown's, i.e. the Hungry Gamers house with some other people while I'm in America before I go to Gen Con. Then I've got Gen Con, as I say, and then I've also got Essen and GridCon later on in the year. So I'm really happy about that in terms of the fact that cons are coming back now and we're all getting the chance to meet each other, meet up with some fantastic people that we may not have met for quite a considerable amount of time, or not met at all. We just converse with them online, and it's really good to get back into that state where you're actually going out and seeing people and playing games and seeing what the new hotness is that's out there as well. So before we dive into the top 10 list, I just thought I'd go through some honourable mentions. These are great games that I received and played and bought and kickstarted, etc., that I got in 2022. They didn't quite make the list, but it doesn't mean that they aren't great games. So in no particular order, first up is Resist. Resist is this purely solo card-based game from David Thompson. Absolutely fantastic game. Picked it up at Essen. I played it a number of times since then. Takes maybe 40 minutes to play a game, and it's really good. You kind of leading the resistance, if you like, or using the resistance, not leading it, using the resistance to fight against the German forces. We also have Ark Nova, technically a 2021 release. A lot of people didn't get it in 2020 until 2022. I picked it up in January 2022, and I reviewed it at the beginning of the year. Had a really favourable review from me, but over time it's kind of waned a little bit. Now I do know that the solo, there is the Arno solo variant that's out there, which I've not used yet. I'm going to use the solo variant that's in the box, but I do still enjoy Ark Nova. We've also got Batman Dark Knight Returns, a pure solo game, although there is a co-op element to there as well, but it really is designed as a solo game, kind of a threat management game that you get to play. Really enjoyed that. I got the kind of deluxe edition with all the models and the miniatures, etc. A lot of fun to be had from Dark Knight Returns. Vengeance Roll and Fight, that's another one from Mighty Boards. I obviously previewed it prior to the Kickstarter, received my copy last year, and I played that quite a bit. It's a great little dice chucking time-based games. If you don't like real-time games, it's not for you, because as a solo gamer you need to use the time basis to kind of make the dice, or choosing the dice and drafting the dice to make it work. Really fun, good arcade feel, plays in about 20-30 minutes. We've also got Lacrimosa. Really enjoyed Lacrimosa. Out of nowhere, it was kind of a darling of Essen, and had a good time with Lacrimosa, where you are kind of working to finish is it Beethoven's symphony, etc., and it's kind of not time traveling. You go back in time a little bit to travel around with Beethoven, but also, is it Mozart? I can't remember. One of the composers, but you're also kind of trying to finish his unfinished symphonies as well. And we also had John Company's second edition from Cole Whirly and Whirligig Games with a solo designed by Richard Wilkins, or Ricky Royal as you know him, and Ricky's done a fantastic kind of job on implementing a solo into what is inherently a negotiation game. It's probably the most difficult and crunchy game that I got in 2022. I've enjoyed my time with it, but it's not going to be for everybody as you're trying to get around those rules. So those are some of the kind of honourable mentions. So let's go right in now and start at number 10. And at number 10, we have Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor. Again, technically a 2021 game, but I did not get my copy until January 2022. Now, they just not just, earlier this year, they completed a Kickstarter for expansions on Uprising, a fantastic area control game using acrylic standees rather than plastic miniatures, and I really like Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor. You kind of play it in as a solo gamer. It's kind of semi-co-op. You have two factions, yourself and another faction, against the bad guys. There's two bad guy factions as well, and you're competing with the AI as well as competing with the factions as well. And both you and the other AI are trying to destroy or stop the factions growing, but you need to try and get more points than or more area than the other AI, and try to get to the end of the scenarios. A difficult game to win, but a really lovely looking and different take on area control. I like Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor, and I highly recommend you guys go and check that out. So that was my number 10, which was Uprising: Curse of the Last Emperor. At number 9 is a sequel to a game. It's possibly the best sequel that I received in 2022, and it actually mechanically is better than the first game, but I still highly rank the first game. And I'm talking about Nemesis Lockdown from Awakened Realms, designed by Adam Kwapinski. I love Nemesis. If you watched any of my videos, you know that Nemesis is around about my third favourite solo game of all time. I think it's generally Kingdom Death Monster, then Too Many Bones, then Nemesis. So I was really excited to get Nemesis Lockdown. The mechanisms in there make it a better game than the original Nemesis, but I still prefer original Nemesis just for the kind of feel it gives me. Alien is one of my favourite films of all time, and Nemesis absolutely captures that, whereas Nemesis Lockdown is more aliens, if you like, than anything. You're in a mining colony on Mars, I think it is, or a mining colony on a planet, and bad things start to happen. Fantastic production quality, got the neoprene mats for it, got all the expansions for it that came with the Kickstarter for Nemesis Lockdown. I think it's great. Doesn't quite pick Nemesis for me. I still love Nemesis more, but I do think the Nemesis Lockdown is actually kind of a better designed game. Then coming in at 8, which is a hotness on many people's lists. I reviewed it just a couple of months ago. Love this game. Picked it up at Essen. It's a little bit like Rocking Horse Teeth to find right now, and that's Heat: Pedal to the Metal. If you're looking for an arcade-style racer game that plays fantastically well solo and up to 6 players, and I played it right through to the full player count of 6 players, then you're not going to go far wrong with Heat: Pedal to the Metal. You're racing your cars around the track, and it's really kind of simply designed. Obviously, it's not simple in design, but really easy to play hand management game where you're using the heating of your engine to try and boost your actions and try and get further around the track than the competitors. The AI runs so smoothly in Heat: Pedal to the Metal as well. Really highly recommended. It deserves a place on, or the place that it's got on most people's hotness and top 10 lists of 2022. Then we move down to number 7. Now, I love Minecraft games, and this year is going to be the year that Voidfall gets released as well. Obviously, I previewed Voidfall about 18 months ago. Really looking forward to receiving that. But their big release for this year was Perseverance the Castaway Chronicles episode 1 and 2. Two different games, but with connected mechanisms, if you like. I preferred episode 2 over episode 1, but I will still play episode 1. Big box game, lots of dinosaur miniatures if you went for the miniatures versions for it. Obviously episodes 3 and 4 are still to come out. This kind of, it split people a little bit, Perseverance. Some people would have preferred the option just to have buy either episode 1 or episode 2. I like the fact that you get them both in the big box, and you've also got the solo campaign which joins the two episodes together as well. Love Perseverance. It doesn't hit my table enough because it's quite a time investment to lay it out and play it. But I have played it maybe, 10 times across both episodes now. Still haven't played that campaign that links them together as a solo gamer. The solo design for it is obviously it's Minecraft, it's David Turksey. Really good job in creating exactly the right kind of solo mode for the game that the game deserves. Lots to go on, dinosaurs coming at you, survival going in there, infighting, competing against other tribes, if you like, on there. Perseverance, Castaway Chronicles, an absolutely sublime game that I really enjoy getting to the table. At number 6 is a Chip Theory Games game which came out earlier this year. I previewed it again for the Kickstarter, received my all-in pledge, and I got the brass mag miniatures and everything for it. Of course, I'm talking about Burn Cycle. I've got a full gaming map for Burn Cycle, so when I get it out, everything's laid out on the table. You're in control of some bots going against the corporations, your hacking systems. It's a stealth type game where you're moving up the levels of a building as well. So much to like in Burn Cycle. Very rules heavy. That may be a bit of a put off for some people. I know the theme didn't gel totally with some people as well, but I like the unique approach. I like the fact that you're playing bots in it. I like the fact that it is a cooperative game. Yes, you have to multi-hand it. It's not true solo, but I like that because you get the interplay between the bots as you're trying to fulfill your various objectives. Fantastic production quality. That's Burn Cycle from Chip Theory Games. So, that's the first 5 of the top 10 done. Now, traditionally I always take a break here and talk about some games that didn't quite work for me in 2022 from a solo perspective. I've been a little bit more selective with the games that I bought this year. So in previous years, this list might have been longer. But certainly one of the games on here I took a punt on. And the other one I backed at Kickstarter and it didn't quite work. So the first one really didn't work for me. Didn't like it solo. Didn't like it multiplayer. I played it solo, 2 players and 3 players, is Starship Captains. This is a game from Czech Games Edition, and you see kind of loosely Star Trek themed, great component qualities. The player boards are these little spaceships, these dual layered spaceships that you put your kind of meeples on there. You got your red shirts, your blue shirts, your yellow shirts. You put androids on there. You're moving around the board trying to complete objectives, and you've got this artwork on these cards, which all looks very nice, but it becomes very, very perfunctory. And you don't see the artwork before long. You just know that you've got to do 2 red here to complete these objectives. The solo is a deck of cards, and I'm going to be honest with you, it's one of the most boring solos I've ever played. In Star Trek, more like Star Trek for Starship Captains, a game that will be leaving my collection very, very shortly. Another one, which is apparently a fantastic multiplayer game, but the solo I found just, again, quite boring, is Sniper Elite from Rebellion. Obviously another David Thompson game with a solo by David Turksey, and the solo I just didn't enjoy at all. It became, you can play it in about 20 minutes, but it just becomes a bit where you're moving your guy around the map, just staying out of reach of people, bit of a chase. Not great amounts of depth there, but I do believe that the multiplayer game is fantastic. So that is one that is going to be staying in my collection for those rare occasions when I get to play games with other people. Okay, so that's, as I say, I was a little bit selective in kind of the games that I bought this year from 2022. So therefore, I've only got 2 real misses for me. That's Starship Captains, which is a game, as a solo gamer, I would highly recommend you completely avoid. It also feels like a game where they've retained some stuff for expansions as well, and Sniper Elite. So now we're on to number 5. And at 5 is the fantastic looking Weather Machine. So this is this year's Vita Lacerda release from Eagle Griffin Games. Artwork by Ian O'Toole with the solo mode by David Turksey, and everything just clicks. It's an abstracted game though, whereas maybe in Kanban EV or some of the other Lacerda games that you're playing, you can link in with the theme. You've got to like stretch a little bit for Weather Machine, because what you're trying to do is kind of reduce the effects of some weather experiments that's happening and try and not resolve them, but make the weather better whilst publishing papers and going against the AI. I think it's fantastic. I love, love, love Weather Machine, but it's not a game for everybody. And I think the slightly abstracted nature of it may just put some people off it. But if you know how to play a Lacerda game, and if you enjoy Lacerda game, it's got those key, wonderful Lacerda mechanisms that you've got in there, the action selection, the interconnecting mechanisms, all kind of gel together into making a really, really rewarding experience. It can be tough to beat, absolutely, but it's nothing less than enjoyable when you're playing it if you know what you're getting in for. And the artwork is utterly sublime. I would literally have the board on my wall as a piece of art. I think the artwork by Ian O'Toole is that good. And that's number 5, that's Weather Machine. At number 4, we have another Chip Theory Games on my list, and this is Hoplomachus Victorum. The much kind of anticipated reimagining and relaunch of the Hoplamackers series. Obviously, they did Hoplamackers relaunch, Hoplamackers Victorium and Hoplamackers Remastered, and they kind of launched them both together. Both obviously have solo modes. Remastered is more of a two or more person game, although it does have a solo mode in the Onslaught mode, which I've had lots of fun with. Whereas Victorium is a pure solo campaign style game, and it is an utter joy to play. If you like Hoplamackers and you like the series, the production quality is obviously off the charts. It's utterly fantastic. It's Chip Theory Games. You've got the mat, you've got the campaign mat, you've got the various battle mats that you put on there, all of the chips, all of the cards that come with it, tying in and gelling into this wonderful campaign, which I think you play over about 12 fights against, and then eventually meet up with a Scion who's the big bad that you've got to defeat. Endless amounts of replayability, and I think the streamlining that they've done on the Hoplamackers series just absolutely works with Hoplamackers Victorium, a pure solo game, an expensive pure solo game, but if you're a solo gamer that likes the fact that you can get through a campaign and then reset it and play another campaign, changing the units that you're using, changing the Scion, changing the other big bads that come out, etc., then you're in for a lot of fun. Highly recommend Hoplamackers Victorium from Chip Theory Games, but if you're looking for that slightly more adaptable game that you can play on your own or play with other people, then you may want to look at Hoplamackers Remastered as well. Right, coming in at number 3 is the first on the list of the games that I received towards the back end of last year, and therefore caused me to delay putting out my top 10 solo games of 2022. This was a game that I backed on Kickstarter. It took maybe 2+ years to fulfill, my longest awaited Kickstarter, and it arrived in November, and I've put maybe 15 hours into this so far, and I'm still only scratching the surface. I will be doing a full review of this in the coming months, but I can't promise that it's going to be in the next month or so. And I'm talking Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Now, if you watched any of my videos, or you know about me, you know that Kingdom Death Monster is my #1 solo game of all time. But Kingdom Death Monster is an investment. It's an investment not only to get all of the base game, but all the various expansions, etc. And it's an investment in time as well. To fully finish a campaign on Kingdom Death Monster, you're committing to multiple plays over a long period of time. And where Kingdom Death Monster kind of doesn't have the interconnecting narrative, you're selecting your narrative between each, if you like, big boss battle that you've got, or hunt phase that you've got, but you're connecting it through cards, and you're kind of making up your narrative as you go along. Aeon Trespass wears its KDM homage very firmly on its sleeve. It doesn't shy away from being an homage to KDM, but it's got a more structured narrative, almost a choose your own adventure type narrative in between the various boss battles that you have. And that's played out similar, but better, in my mind, than a game like Seventh Continent, where you've got these map tiles that you're putting out and you're exploring in the Argo, which is the boat, leading up to various boss battles, and then intervening boss battles, and crafting your gear and expanding your cargo and taking various hits, etc. So much in Aeon's Trespass Odyssey to like and to love as well. And I'd say, if you're looking for a game that's vastly different to Kingdom Death Monster, you're not going to get it in Aeon Trespass Odyssey. But what it does is it complements that completely well and provides a very different experience, with a big plus point that all the miniatures are pre-assembled. So unlike with Kingdom Death Monster, where you have to make them yourself, in Aeon Trespass Odyssey, they're all there. And the combat is different. It's similar but different to KDM. Whereas in KDM, both you and the bosses are getting weaker as the fight progresses. What happens in Aeon Trespass Odyssey is you may be getting weaker, but the bosses that you're battling are getting stronger as they go through various stage decks, their BP decks and their AI decks, and they're getting stronger, and it becomes more difficult to deal those final blows. Still only scratch, even after maybe 15-16 hours with Aeon's Trespass Odyssey, still only scratching the surface. That's only cycle 1, the story, which you can replay and replay and replay because you can make different choices. I've also got cycle 2 and cycle 3, and I've pre-ordered all of the other expansions as well. I'm looking forward over the next year or so to playing a lot more Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Came out of nowhere, wasn't sure I was going to keep it. When it arrived, I thought, maybe, you know, after backing it and all that time ago, my tastes have changed, but I'm so glad I didn't. It is an investment to buy it, although I think it's still cheaper than Kingdom Death Monster, and certainly should be more accessible and available than KDM. And it is an investment to play it, but it's got a good save mechanism there as well. So I highly recommend checking out Aeon Trespass Odyssey. Okay, we're now down to the final 2. And the game at number 2, since I got it in maybe October, was always going to be my game of the year, and it was picked right at the very, very end, and that's why the video has been delayed in coming out. And it is an utterly fantastic game. When I started board gaming back in 2019, and I was looking for a game that really kind of told a good story, gave me a sense of progression, gave me a sense of growth, gave me some great adventures and some battling. It didn't really exist outside of spending lots of money on a game like, I don't know, like KDM, etc. Well, Oathsworn got delivered to backers this year, and Oathsworn, if you've watched my review, you'll know exactly what Oathsworn is. It's a large narrative-based boss battling game. That's right, it's another boss battling game. It's a large narrative-based boss battling game, but the story is so fantastic. It's more on rails than KDM or Aeon Trespass Odyssey, but you know, it doesn't make it any less exciting, if you like. Now, the key with a narrative style game is you've got to be bought into the story itself, and I think the writing in the kind of in the exploration, the exploration part is really, really good by Jamie Jolly, and if you're using the app, it's voiced by James Cosmo from Game of Thrones. It's fantastic, and you feel, again, you understand why you're fighting each monster. But when it comes to the boss battles, it does so many things right. First of all, you know, this game, if you just bought the base box, the standee version, you're not missing out on any gameplay. I've got everything. I've got the terrain pack, I've got all the miniatures, the surprise boxes, etc. But that's because I wanted them, but you don't have to get all that. You could just get the base game and play the standee version, and you're getting exactly the same gameplay. Looks fantastic on the table. Hits every note I'm looking for in a game like this. You've got the progression of your characters, you've got the leveling up of your characters, you've got this kind of surprise as you open the next big bad box to fight against. Each baddie fights in a very different way depending on their encounter deck that they're coming out, or the stage decks that are coming out against you. So you have to constantly change your ways for each boss battle of how you're going to battle them, and understand their movements and what they do and how they fight, and adapt your style accordingly. You have to play as 4 characters, but you don't have to play as 4 full characters. You either have the full characters or the companion characters, and you can play as any combination of them, maybe all 4 companion characters, which is stripped down characters, or all 4 full characters, or 2 full and 2 companions, which is how I play it. And it just works. Everything works so well. It would have been such a disappointment to have this wonderful production, this fantastic story, if the battling system didn't work. But it does. You have the battle flow system where the cards will move around, the cards you played will move around and eventually get back into your hand so you can play them, and then play other cards to shift them around to come back into your hand so you get to use them again. And it just all gels together to make one of the finest kind of adventure boss battling experiences that I've had. A real strong contender since I got it for my number 1 game of the year, and it was doing it right up until 2 days after Christmas. So 2 days after Christmas, I received my number 1 game of 2022. And the reason this video has been delayed, it didn't come out on the 31st, because from the first moment I played the physical version of this game, and I know it's a game I previewed for the Kickstarter, first moment I played the physical version of this game, I knew it was something very, very, very special. And it had to be special because it knocked Oathsworn off my number 1 spot. And what is the game? It's laid out in front of me right here. It's Frostpunk, the board game. My number 1 solo game of 2022. I know some people are only starting to receive it in 2023. I received it in 2022 in December. I played it 7 times now, I think. And let me tell you, it's everything I wanted it to be from the preview and more. It's a masterclass in how to do a resource management Euro style game where the theme absolutely links into every single action that you do. It's a survival game, but it's not. Survival is an output of the decisions that you make. You see, it's a game all about choices is what Frostpunk is. It's just an absolutely fantastic implementation of the PC stroke console game, changing just enough to make it playable on a board game. You're going to go through these various scenarios with difficulty modifiers that you can add to or take away from if you want. You're going to make some really, really difficult choices throughout your time playing this over the number of rounds it takes to complete that scenario. If you get to complete that scenario, spoiler, most people are going to fail in round 7. That's around about just after the first storm has hit, depending on which scenario that you're doing there. You can choose various setups for it. You can choose various starting societies for it, various resources for it. You know, I got the full Kickstarter with all the pre-shaded miniatures, etc. You don't need them, of course you don't. You can just have the tiles that you put on the board. But every version of it comes with the great kind of generator tower that you're going to drop cubes into, and that is also a fantastic thing for it as well. I absolutely adore Frostpunk the board game. It really is, without a shadow of a doubt, my #1 solo board game of 2022. So I will be doing a review of Frostpunk the board game in the next kind of week or so. That will be up on my channel. But as I say, it really did come in at the last moment, the last possible moment, and take over the #1 spot for me from Oathsworn. I really thought Oathsworn was going to maintain its #1 spot, but Oathsworn, I can't stop thinking about. But Frostpunk, I can't stop thinking about the game after I played it. I want to play it again, and I want to play it again, and I think about the decisions that I've made, about the choices I've made. What would I do differently next time? That, to me, is the mark of a good game, a game that you constantly think about. So yeah, like all top 10 lists, it's purely subjective. Your tastes and your opinions will vary wildly from mine. Some of your favourite games, solo games of last year, may well be on my list, but they will probably not be in the same order as what I've given you here. You know, there's been, as I say, a plethora of games released this year. We've seen massive growths and strides in the solo gaming community, if you like, with numbers on Facebook groups growing all the time, and most games, or a lot of games, coming out with a solo mode. Still not in a position where every game needs a solo mode. Some solo modes absolutely feel like they shouldn't exist. Starship Troopers, I'm looking at you. Starship Captains, I'm looking at you. But, you know, it's been a good year, an exciting year, and it's been topped off at the back end of the year for me by my top 3 coming out relatively late. We had Oathsworn coming to me in October. We had Aeon Trespass Odyssey coming in November, and Frostpunk coming in December. And I think that is absolutely fantastic. It's pushed games that I was absolutely certain would appear on my top 10 list of things like Ark Nova. I was absolutely certain that Ark Nova was going to appear in my top 10 list somewhere. But as the year's gone on, it's waned a little bit in kind of in popularity with me. So yeah, what have we got to look forward to in 2023? Well, as I've already mentioned, we have the big game for me is going to be Voidfall in 2023. Really enjoyed my preview version of Voidfall, which I played on Tabletop Simulator. Really enjoyed that. I've played some iterations of it since, as well as it being going through and making adjustments to it. Voidfall for me is going to be a massive game for me this year. If it holds on to even 50% of the promise that it showed in the Kickstarter, then I'm really looking forward to getting that and playing that through. We have a game like Lunar Rush, which is coming from Dead Alive Games, which, you know, is this really fast pace, not pick up and deliver, but kind of resource management game where you're taking stuff up to the moon to make resources, to bring them down, to try and get the best the best kind of moon base and best number of points possible. Really kind of Lunar Rush by name and by nature. You've got a racing element. You can take slow journeys up to the moon and take more resources, or you can do quick and take less, but you know, you can get more stuff down quicker, but you may not be able to get the big stuff. Really enjoyed Lunar Rush, and I think, you know, that's going to be a big one for this year as well. You know, in terms of some of the other big games that are coming out in 2023, I've pulled back on some of my Kickstarter stuff. So I've backed less Kickstarters this year, but it doesn't mean I'm not looking forward to kind of what's coming through. There is, of course, more stuff coming through for Burn Cycle as well, which I backed the campaign on that. We have more stuff for Too Many Bones. We also have coming this year the Elder Scrolls game from Chip Theory Games, which is their first full IP, if you like, which I'm really looking forward to learning more about. Hopefully this year we'll get the kind of the tail end of some of the Sadler Brothers and Blacklist games like Contra, which it's more than 2 years ago since I first played Contra, going on for 2 years since I pre-ordered it. Still haven't got my copy through yet, but hopefully that comes through. We'll have Dire Alliance Horror coming through as well, which, you know, I really enjoyed that. I do like a good horror game from there. I do like a good horror game as well. You know, if you look if here, a lot of people are enjoying Skyrim, which started being issued to backers at the back end of last year. I got an early review copy through. I've enjoyed my time with Skyrim. Didn't quite make my top 10 list. But it's got a nice adventure kind of aspect to it there as well. So I think, you know, as the year goes on, we'll start to see more and more bigger games come out, and more games come out and wanting backing for Kickstarter. I think 2022 is a great year for solo gaming. I hope you guys had fun solo gaming in 2022. Wishing you all the best for 2023, and hope your solo journeys just continue to expand and you really start to enjoy the fruits of your labours as a solo gamer. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey through my top 10 games, my top 10 solo games of 2022. My name's Mark. This is Not Board Gaming. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out our other videos. And one final thought. If you can't find anyone else to play with, there's nothing wrong with playing with yourselves. Until next time, bye-bye.